this video, we're going to talk about some interesting sales from the most recent Heritage Signature auction, because a lot of times in this hobby, we make emotional decisions. I was kind of trying to figure out a good word to use for it or term to use for comic book sales that just don't make any sense. And the first thing that came to mind was dumb money. But then I thought that's just kind of derogatory, and it doesn't need to be derogatory. Basically, what I'm talking about is FOMOing into books, or not FOMOing into books when you should. FOMO can serve you well if you know how to... Oh, hi, Callie. Callie wanted to make an appearance here. FOMO can serve you well if you know when it's good FOMO and when it's bad FOMO, but it's almost always, I'd say probably 95% of the time, bad FOMO. But before we hop too far into it, I want to highlight some books that I currently have available for trade, some Grail books available for trade. Check these out. All of these books available for sale or trade. We have Tales of Suspense 39, First Iron Man, a 1.0. I sealed a deal on this months ago, and clearly the guy has ghosted me because there it still is. Silver Surfer number 2 in a 9.8. Journey into Mystery 85, First Loki in a 5.0. And check BryceComics.com for all the details and values and stuff like that. X-Men number 4, just an absolutely beautiful 8.5 with white pages. Tales to Astonish 27, the first appearance of Ant-Man. Very difficult to find one of these at a good price that presents well, and this is both of those things. Tomb of Dracula number 1, triple signed by Stan Lee and Neil Adams and Jerry Conway, 9.4 with the custom Stan Lee retired label. Star Trek, I have 3 copies of this. One of them signed by William Shatner. Go check out the website. We have an 8.0 and a 9.2 available for trade. A really strong sale of the 9.6 recently on Heritage. Giant Size X-Men number 1 and an 8.0. Silver Surfer number 4. I am very surprised that this is still available for trade in a 9.6. One of the most iconic covers of the Silver Age. And Crime Does Not Pay 33. I have this listed at a price where I'm taking a loss. I actually paid $4,800 for this. I have it listed for $45 or for trade, so I will be taking a little bit of a loss. And this is the perfect video to mention this in, and we'll get more into all the details on that towards the end of the video. I'm also in the final negotiations of some new Grail, so if you're interested in upgrading your collection, consolidating, have your list ready to go. Go take an inventory, make a spreadsheet of the books that you have available that you'd be willing to trade. Don't wait until I post it on the website and you see that dream book of yours and you're scrambling to go get a list. Go get your list together. It's also a really good opportunity to just take inventory and ask yourself, what can you live without? What would you like to see gone, and upgrade it to a Grail? So stay tuned for later this week. There should be some new trade opportunities available, and check out BryceComics.com. Just today, if you're watching this today, come out a whole new set of key issue books were listed in addition to what you're seeing here. Sign up for that newsletter. Use code COLLECT10 for 10% off all in-stock items. We also do a monthly giveaway here on the YouTube channel. Subscribe, comment, and like. You're entered to win 2 free slabs this month. So the first book I want to talk about the Heritage auction is a really interesting one, because I was bidding on this Amazing Fantasy 15 in a 6.0, and it sold for $81,000, and my high bid on it was actually $80,000, which was kind of a FOMO price. And so I was bidding on behalf of a customer. A really cool story about this one: a friend of mine, a customer overseas, reached out. He wanted to upgrade his Amazing Fantasy 15. He had a 5.5, so he sent me his 5.5 and a whole bunch of other books, and I sold it for him, and he kind of created a credit with me. And it's really messy and convoluted to do this, and we were dealing with just Grails, and so it kind of made sense, but it's not something I can just like open up to the community because of how tricky it gets to keep track of anything. But it was a high grade Amazing Fantasy 15. It was an easy sale, so we made it happen. So essentially he has $72,000 in credit with me, which I've had it for months, which I think is actually really cool. I think I'm honored to, I don't even know what this guy looks like. We've only ever talked over email, and he trusts me to hold $72,000 of his money. And it's because he can trust me. And I actually would like to give him his money back and just so it's like clean. But we're working on tracking down a new AF-15 6.0 because we did not get this one. And we had the last sale of this book was $69,000. And it was the exact same book. As you can see here, the exact same cert numbers, the exact same auction house. It sold on Heritage for $69,000 in January of 2025. The exact same book came up again in June, and it sold for $81,000. So, we were fully expecting this book to probably see about a 5% drop because that's what we're seeing across the board with Amazing Fantasy 15s and stuff is a softening of the market in the past 6 months, about a 5% decline. So we were hoping to get the book for about $65,000. Then come auction day, and it was already way past what we were willing to pay, and he, in kind of a FOMO moment, said go up to $80,000. Just place a max bid of $80,000 with the buyer's premium out the door, $80,000. So I placed that bid. It went to the live auction, and we were outbid. It sold for $81,000. I think there was one other person. I don't think it was just me and one other guy. I think there was like a cut bid or something after mine. So there likely was 3 people bidding this up. I'm not positive about that, but I'm glad that he didn't win it because I don't think this book is worth $81,000. I think it's worth more around $65,000. I mean, it's not like a super exceptional copy. It doesn't have any Marvel chipping, which is really good, but I mean, as far as 6.0s go, I mean, it's not like the nicest. There's nothing about it that would demand a $12,000 premium in a soft market. And I think he sums it up really well here in an email afterwards. He says, hey, Abri, yeah, really crazy sale, and I kind of fell into the trap of being blinded by desires, as you often warn against, by asking you to bid higher. I attribute that bonkers inflated sale price to one thing and one thing only, pent-up demand for that specific grade and price point. I've been somewhat trying to track available copies for sale, and there have been so few 6.0 copies for sale this year that myself and I guess at least one other individual just had this pent-up demand for it and were willing to pay over the odds for the copy. It is my belief that sales of AF-15 are still softening. Case in point, a 7.5 copy that sold on Heritage yesterday in the same auction for $138,000, whereas a 7.5 copy sold on Heritage earlier in the year for $144,000, about a 5% lower sale. So just something to consider. If you find yourself bidding on a book at auction, just ask yourself, are you FOMOing into it? Are you that one guy who's going to pay way over FMV just because you were FOMOing and you thought that it was going to get away? One of the most important things with having huge grails in your comic book collection is getting your equity when you buy. Getting equity in the book by getting a good deal. Now, we're finding that with Amazing Fantasy 15, a good presenting copy, there just are no good deals, but there's definitely inflated prices, and you don't want to be one of those to get an inflated price. You're not going to get a great deal on a well-presenting Amazing Fantasy 15, but you can avoid overpaying for one because of lack of available copies and just wanting to get into it and not being patient. An example of a book where FOMO served a collector well was this book, All American Comics 17, that I had listed on my site for $3,800. This is the second appearance of Green Lantern, just a super, super rare book and hard to find, and I priced it at $3,800 because the most recent sale was $3,840 in 2022. Now, most things, almost across the board, have come way down since 2022, but this book, being that it hardly ever comes up for sale, and it's a golden age book, and there was a sale of a 2.0 in January for $3,800. If this 2.0 sale hadn't been there, I wouldn't have priced it at $38. If this 2.0 sale wasn't there, I probably would have priced it at like $32 to account for the softening of the market since 2022. But because of this high sale, I thought $3,800 was a good price, a justifiable price. I thought for sure it would sell for cash right away. And so I was super busy this day. I had appointments all day and I wasn't able to be around my phone, but I felt my phone blowing up. And it was because because of this book, I got 3 trade offers the first day, and one guy in particular messaged me like 8 times on a bunch of different platforms. It was totally fine, but this was like the book that he has been after for years, and he's never been able to find it for a fair price. And he was trying to do a trade, and then he shot me an offer for, I think, like a couple $100 off. And then I just wasn't able to get to my phone. I wasn't able to see anything. When I finally got out of my meetings, it had sold. Somebody bought it for the full asking price. And one of his last messages was, fine, I'll pay your full asking price if you could just give me a little bit of time to put the money together or something like that. And I felt bad because, he obviously has been hunting this book for so long. And this is an example of when you see a book that you've been hunting for a long time at a fair price, don't haggle over it. Just pay the fair price. I recently picked up a book that I've been hunting for 5 years. I bought it just the other day. I'm going to do a whole video on it. Really looking forward to that one. And I did the same thing. I mean, there's no judgment here. When I saw that book that I've been hunting for 5 years listed at a fair price, my first thought was, should I shoot him an offer for a couple $100 less? Because, it's just sitting there. It wasn't selling, right? And I immediately was like, no, you know what? That's a great price. It's a great book. I'm just going to buy it. And so I just claimed it and bought the book on a consignment page. Really looking forward to doing that video. But the collector who did buy this reached out as a first-time customer, and he's super stoked on getting this. He's super stoked on the price. And it's just an example of when you see something for a good deal, don't haggle, just go for it, especially if it's on my site, because stuff that's highly desirable at a good price on my site will not last long. The next book I want to talk about is Star Wars #1, the 35-cent price variant. Now, this one just really hurts the sale on Heritage. This was back in April. This was my friend's copy. $31,200 was the final price, and it was a low price compared to how this book has been performing. It wasn't necessarily low. There was a $28,000 sale, which was the lowest it's been since 2018, a $40,000 sale. So, 31 is understandable, right? But what really hurts about this is that in this last auction in June here on Heritage, this, not the same exact book, but the same grade, same page quality. Virtually indistinguishable. Sold for $48,000, a $17,000 premium, which I think is dumb money, quote unquote. $48,000. I just think that is a really high price for this, considering that earlier in the year it sold the same page quality and everything for $31,000, and a softening of the market and things like that. So this may have been a situation that was very similar to the AF-15, where there was just 2 people in the room in that auction that day that bid that thing up, and it went higher than it was supposed to. And also, it could have had something to do with who was in this auction because of the magnitude of books in there. Maybe there was somebody who just like really, really big money in the room that was bidding on some of these like $1 million items. And this is like the Star Wars #1 Grail, and they just didn't care, which I would consider dumb money, just paying too much, nothing derogatory, but just like an emotional price, or just like, F it money, and you're just buying something for more because you just wanted it right then in that moment. But with this Amazing Fantasy 15, this wasn't like FU money. This wasn't like super well. This was a collector who made a lot of sacrifices to get to the $80,000. So there are some books that are great to send to Heritage because they're just so niche, and you really do need the most eyes on them. Like this Star Trek #1 9.6 that sold for $22,000. That's a Heritage book because of the price. The Star Wars one, I tried to sell this on my site for my buddy, and there wasn't any takers. So this is a good candidate for Heritage. But the books that I don't think are good candidates for Heritage are stuff like this Silver Surfer #4. I think you can get more for it from somebody like me. I would offer probably more for this book than what the consigner walked away with, depending on your relationship with Heritage. So I had a friend recently reach out to Heritage, and the best offer that they could make for him, it was his first time selling a big expensive book, about $10,000, and they said it's a 15% seller's fee and a 20% buyer's premium. So that's 35% of fees coming off of the book, because this is a great example of this. Both the buyer's premium and the seller's premium comes out of the consignor's pocket, because you're only going to get 80% of the hammer price minus whatever selling fee. So unless you have like a really strong relationship with them, you sell millions of dollars worth of comics, you can negotiate that price down. But I would offer 80% of 10,800. And so this book that I'm thinking about pulling and sending to Heritage, as much as I really want to avoid that. In fact, I would rather take a little loss on it and sell it for 4,500. I paid 48. I would rather take a loss and just be done with it than send it to Heritage, wait months and months and months and months to get my money, and then not know what it's going to sell for. I would rather know that I'm taking a little loss and be done with it right now, which is why, it's surprising to me that, so many people send their books like this to Heritage. Like, I would just much rather take an offer like 80%. I can offer 80% for most books over $1,000, and you don't have to wait months and months to get your money, and you don't have to wonder what it's going to actually sell for. But this book would be a great Heritage book because this exact copy sold on Heritage for over $7,000 when it was a 7.0 during like the peak of the market. Then it was cracked out, regraded, and got the grade bump. So I think that this book could do $7,000 or $8,000 on Heritage. I really do, because a classic pre-code horror, and it does take a certain type of buyer to see it, but there's a lot of those over there on Heritage. So, but like I said, I just would rather take a trade or just take my loss on it than go through all the hassle of sending it to them. But it would be very interesting to do it and do a video on it and see how it actually performs. But if you want to help me just rip the Band-Aid off, take my little loss on this book, I have it listed at $4,500, which I think is more than a fair price. So that's it. Just some musing, some thoughts on FOMO and emotional purchases with comic books. Patience can serve you well, and it can also bite you in the butt if you're, trying to haggle over a couple $100 for something that is just really hard to find. So I hope you found this video interesting at the very least. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye.